Dear Mama, you have so many questions, but not enough answers. You wish you didn't have to ask, and that's why I'm writing you this letter. You're not alone, you're not crazy, and I hope this helps. I see you because I am you. Sincerely, Mama. What's up, Mama? You are tuned in to Sincerely Mama podcast. I am your host, Jackie Bobbitt, millennial mom, entrepreneur, and purpose coach. If you've ever felt like you did not fit into social media's image of mother or motherhood, you are in the right place. We are dispelling magical motherhood, and we are creating community by revealing realistic motherhood. Today we have my dear friend Tiera Peters here today. Tiera, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, before I talk about who I am, shouldn't we share how we are connected, how we know each other?
That would be cool.
How long have we been friends, Jackie?
Oh my goodness. When did we meet? In 2011 or 2012?
I think it was 11 because I graduated in 2012. So
that is 12 years? Is that 12 years?
I mean, almost. I mean, well, yeah, about 12 years. That's crazy.
This year will make 12 years. That's wild.
We also were roommates at one point.
We were roommates, and that's a time I don't want to revisit.
We've seen each other at our best and also at our worst.
And at our worst, right?
We know each other in and out, I would say.
Right. I said, leave it up to Tiera to bring up the worst, right?
No, it was all great. It was all great. So lots of history between us. We've seen each other become mothers, and now you have this whole brand and business that is based on this journey that we've gotten to see on. So that's really cool.
Thank you, T. I appreciate that.
Yes, but
you have to tell us. You have to tell us a little bit about you and what you do. So who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, again, I'm Tiera. I am a wife of 7 years, married to Tiera Peters. We have 3 children together. Khalil, who is 6, and then we have twin girls who are 3, Zoe and Aaliyah. And we're church planters, but I am also a childbirth educator. I've been certified with Birth Boot Camp for going on 5 years now, actually. And I've been teaching childbirth education classes, here and there since for the past 5 years. So I have a background in psychology, but after I became a mother, I found myself really passionate about ensuring that other women had positive birth experiences similar to what I had experienced as a mom. I teach childbirth classes. I contract with the birth center here in Houston, and I also teach private classes for couples.
Nice. So, Tiera, tell us, what is a birth class? You've mentioned that you are a birth worker, that you teach birth classes. What is a birth class?
It's simply a course designed to provide those who are pregnant with the tools and the information they need to navigate not only birth, but pregnancy and postpartum. We know that birth happens every day. People have been giving birth since the dawn of time. However, it's a life-changing event. It requires preparation, and there are a variety of options as far as types of birth classes that you can take. During our Mother's Day, when they were pregnant with us, I think Lamaze was super popular at that time. But since then, there's a ton of other options that can fit each unique need and preference in pregnancy as well. Birth preferences, because not everyone has the same preferences for giving birth. So there's something out there for everybody.
So Tiera,
I should
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm certified with Birth Boot Camp, and I love their philosophy on birth as well as the curriculum. It's really simple, hands-on. It's evidence-based. So I'm a huge fan of Birth Boot Camp and the curriculum we offer with them.
Nice. So tell us, in your opinion, as a mother and as a birth worker, why is it important to take a birth class?
Well, as I mentioned before, although women have always given birth, it's something that still requires a lot of preparation. It's a life-changing event. I believe that a woman never forgets her baby's birthday, the day her baby was born. And regardless how it goes, whether it was amazing or traumatic or mid, I think a woman always remembers the day that she gave birth. And I also think that something happens to the woman. It's almost as if she's giving birth to herself. You kind of becoming the next person, or the next part of yourself. You're changing, you're transforming when you become a mother. So who you are is changing. Your body goes through changes throughout pregnancy, and then when you give birth, a lot of things happen that you just would not expect unless you saw it happen in previous birth. Your relationship changes. So there's just a lot happening throughout pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. And having the information to prepare you for those changes helps you to make informed decisions about what happens to your body, what happens to your baby, and it can lead to empowerment. And I think that that's the part that's into birth work, being able to make informed decisions based on the information that I've been given or that I've read myself can lead to a sense of empowerment on your journey to becoming a mother. And I think that the confidence that you gain from that can't be replaced. So again, birth, becoming a parent is crazy, and it requires preparation. And I also think that the generations past, or I say generations, but probably centuries ago, or maybe a century ago, it was more typical for a young girl to be present at the births of her family members, maybe an aunt or an older sister, or even if her mother had children when she, in her older years, it was more typical for you to see birth and kind of understand what to expect during the birth process. But in our time, I think it's less common for a woman to attend a birth before she has her own. I know I certainly, except for the videos they show in PE and the videos I saw in my birth classes, or even in, my own research, I didn't know anything. And yet, so many of us become mothers, and you just don't know. There's a lot that you don't know.
Right.
That is why taking a birth class is important. Not even to push a certain type of birth, but just so that you can be prepared and make decisions about what you think you want and what you think is best.
I think that you hit on a lot of points, and you said some things you just don't know. And I'm thinking about what was one thing that I didn't know before taking a birth class. And I think I'm just going to lay it out there. I did not know that you had to deliver placenta after a baby. I was like, what? Wait a minute. I got to push twice?
No one tells you. How would you know?
Right. I feel like taking the birth class is like opening up this new world of things that you just did not know. Because, if you are not preparing to have a baby, it's almost like, why would I study that? Why would I research that?
Exactly.
So I feel like birth classes do well with filling the gap of time that you did not research. So
Sure.
thank you for that. Tiera, you talked about the mom experiencing different things and remembering the birth and the events that happened leading up to the birth. Is it important for both parents to attend the birth class, or do you feel like only the mom should attend?
Absolutely. Both parents should be there for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, partners are typically just as, not always, but typically just as invested in the birth process because they want their baby to be healthy and they want their partner to be happy. And they also want to be able to support their partner while they're giving birth. So it's super important. Sometimes partners are reluctant, especially if they have limited education already about what to experience in birth. They may ask, "Is it necessary? Why do we have to do this?" And when I say they, I'm speaking specifically about my husband, who did not want to take who did not want to take a childbirth education class for our first pregnancy. He was like, Jackie. He was like, "Why don't you just get a C-section? They just, cut you, pull the baby out."
It's the sound effects for me.
He literally did that. He was like, "It sounds simple. Why would you? What else do you need?"
Right.
So, I think that partners are key players because your partner, whoever you're on this life journey with, is probably someone you rely on a lot for emotional support, and having the comfort of them by your side in labor is going to give you reassurance. It's going to help us be able to cope better with the sensations of labor. Having that comfort from your partner can go a long way in helping you to feel safe throughout the process. But also, there's a lot that partners can do to support physically in labor, especially if you decide not to hire a doula, or if you do hire a doula. There are partners who want to be hands-on. They're like, "Hey, I want to help you to do the comfort measures, or I want to, help you to get into the different labor positions." So partners, without taking a birth class, where else would you know that information? Because if women aren't seeing births in their, throughout their youth, certainly a lot of dads or men are not attending births and knowing, double hip squeeze during a contraction can bring mom a lot of relief. So the birth class can give partners a lot of tools to help them to better support mom throughout labor. And there was one more thing that I wanted to say about that. Help them being more aware of the process can help them to help mom make decisions and advocate for herself while she's in labor or preparing for labor.
That is a great segue into the next question that I had, but I also had a thought about, especially because it is Black History Month, and in your opinion, being in the birth world, have you seen African Americans attend classes more now? I know that when we were having birth, or when we were giving birth, the statistics were pretty low, just on Black people being knowledgeable about birth, knowing that birth classes existed. So in your line of work, do you see a lot of African Americans attending these classes?
So as I mentioned earlier, I contract with the local birth center, teaching all of their first-time moms. And I have, in the past 3 years since I've been there, I've heard more couples say, "I've been hearing about Black women's experiences in hospitals, and I don't want that."
Absolutely.
So them, they're actually not signing up for the class per se, but they're choosing midwifery care and learning about, just having more options and flexibility with midwives. So they end up in my class that way. But everyone is expressing, hey, I want to have options, and I want to be able to make decisions for myself.
Absolutely.
For my pregnancy. Yeah. People are scared. Women are scared to give birth, for sure. Black women.
Yeah. I definitely wanted to shed light on that because a lot of people don't know the statistics and don't know that Black women are fighting for advocacy every day. So thank you for sharing that.
For sure.
And as we talk about advocacy, do you think as a birth worker that the parents should rely solely on the birth worker to advocate for them? So whether it's a home birth or a hospital birth, do you think they should solely rely on the birth worker?
I saw this question when you sent it to me earlier, and I was like, "Ooh, this is a good question." For one, I would like to note that there are birth workers, there are doulas who will vocally express, "My role is not to advocate for you. My role is to support you and educate you so that you can advocate for yourself." There are doulas who, draw the line with when it comes to that. But then on the other side, there are doulas who would describe themselves as being the couple's advocate, the one to speak directly to their care provider, whether it's a midwife or an OB, or the nurses in a hospital setting. So people, there are different birth workers handle advocacy in different ways. In my opinion, I don't think a couple should rely solely on their doula to be their advocate. I think that it's important that you do the work yourself, that you take the class, that you read the books, that you supplement any information that your doula is giving you. And I mean, not to say that your doula's work can't be trusted, because doulas are out there putting in the work. You hear me? They're
absolutely
supporting women. But I think that whatever you're learning from your doula, you should definitely supplement that so that you can have the language to advocate for yourself, so that you're not just told, we don't want to get an IV. You want to get IV Heplock. So if you're in the hospital setting and maybe your doula hasn't arrived yet and you tell the nurse, I'm only supposed to get the IV Heplock. They'll say, what, why don't you IV? And you don't have you don't know how to explain why that's on your birth plan. You put yourself in a tough situation. So it's important to fully understand, all the information that you've been given, information about policies and procedures surrounding birth, so that you can truly make an informed decision and not just kind of do what you've been told, but from the other side, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that you have a choice to have a birth plan. Again, that was something totally new to us. We was like, what is a birth plan? Which we kind of had some insight because, our friends had babies before us. But other than that, it was like we had no idea that you had a choice in these things. And so I feel like that was a huge game changer for us. Just realizing that you had choices, that you could make a plan and share with the care provider to go by this plan that I decided upon. Mm-hmm. So,
yes,
thank you for touching on that as well.
Yes, I think as our society is starting to acknowledge more and more bodily autonomy, like a person's right to make decisions about what happens to their bodies in a way that has not been seen in years past or acknowledged in years past. It's kind of like you just do whatever you're told to do. But now people are like, no, y'all can't be trusted.
Right. Look, that makes me think about, I believe it was Leah. So it was my second birth. So really educated, really prepared, feel like I know a lot about birth and know how to advocate for myself. And at this time, this is during COVID. And so I'm going into the appointments alone because I did dual care. I did it with my midwife and my OB. And so now it's like, okay, it's game on. And so I feel like with all of that preparation, there was still a moment where I do not want to mess up the term, but I believe it's when you scrape membranes. Is that?
Oh, membrane sweep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the membrane sweep. And so I was going in for a checkup. I can't even remember how far along I was, but I know I wasn't ready to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so my care provider did the membrane sweep without asking for my consent. And then I just remember thinking, I had all this education. I was prepared to share that wasn't my decision, and then I didn't. And I was like, it's so crazy because, that moment for me was a membrane sweep. It could have been something else for the next woman, but I just thought about how, like, you can be prepared. Sometimes you can take all the classes and then still in the moment, still feel pressure not to advocate for yourself.
Absolutely.
And so
yes, Jackie.
it's still such a weird time. And then you would think, like you said, this is my body. Like, surely you would get consent first, but that's not always the deal. And then you don't want to think about, the gender. Oh, it's because I'm a woman, or, oh, because I'm black. Oh, because I'm a black woman. But those things come to mind. And then it's just like, why is this still a thing? Yeah. Why isn't consent first,
Why is the culture this? Mm-hmm.
Right. So when we talk about birth classes and we talk about your births, so we'll share about that. I already know what births you had, but did you have natural births with both children? Well, all three children, both births.
I did. My first birth was our son. We attended a 12-week long childbirth education class. We hired a doula. We only had the option to have our son in the hospital. So I'm sorry, keep rocking this table. We only had the option to have our son in the hospital. So we did, I labored at home for a significant amount of time. I got to the hospital essentially ready to push, and he was born soon after. So it was a fast birth for a for a first time mom. It was pretty fast, and I had no complaints about that birth. I felt empowered. I was able to labor in a space that was familiar and comfortable for me. My birth team was super supportive. My partner was supportive. So it was a really great birth. Now, fast forward, as we were planning for baby number 2, we were preparing to move to Houston. I thought to myself, oh, I'm going to have all these birth options. There are midwives and birth centers in Texas. Midwifery is regulated by the state of Texas. It's going to be great. And then we found out we were pregnant with 2. And well, it's funny, Jackie, because you said earlier that you felt so prepared because you knew a lot of things about birth. And I felt that way too. I was like, okay, I know so much more now that I teach classes, and I'm going to be able to have the exact birth that I want. And then there were 2, and I'm like, I know nothing. I know nothing about birthing twins. All that to say, we ended up hiring a doula, and again, choosing to have our babies in the hospital for a couple of reasons. One, there's a lot of midwives who don't accept insurance. They don't get reimbursed well from insurance companies often. So some midwives require, cash out of pocket payments. And we had just moved to the States, so we could not afford to pay, for a birth center birth. We needed to do something in the hospital. But also, I had hypo and hyperthyroidism throughout my twin pregnancy. So seeing a maternal fetal medicine doctor was recommended. And the doctor who was recommended to me was known to be the natural birth friendly twin doctor, if you will. And I knew from the first meeting that he was our guy when he told me when I asked him, I said, well, if one of the twins, typically doctors, one twin has to be head down, both twins have to be head down for them to allow, quote unquote, you to
Right.
vaginally. So I asked him, I said, if one of the twins is breech, is that an automatic C-section? And he said, no, I've actually performed a double breech birth previously, which is crazy. You don't hear that every day.
Right.
But he said, twins are just a variation of normal. So when I heard him say that, I was like, this is the right guy. He doesn't see my twin pregnancy as high risk in and of itself. He knows that women can give birth to twins vaginally, even if one is breech and one is head down. So I knew that we would be in good hands with him. And ultimately, I opted to be induced at 39 weeks based on my research and my understanding of the risk that goes, the risk of stillbirth that goes up after 38 weeks. We were induced with Pitocin, but he was very flexible in the process, starting the Pitocin, allowing me to rest throughout the night, starting again in the morning, breaking my water. And we had the twins vaginally without an epidural. So I didn't get my full birth plan with the twins. However, I still say that I had an amazing birth with the twins because I worked with my birth team collaboratively for the birth plan that I created for myself. And I was supported throughout. And I think that makes all the difference for a person's birth experience. It's not so much that it's a certain type of birth, but it's that you were able to make decisions for yourself and that you had a supportive birth team. So I had 2 great births.
Absolutely. So briefly tell us how you feel like taking a birth class impacted your births. Do you feel like there was a difference, or do you feel like you would have still had those amazing births had you not prepared?
No, I wouldn't have. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know. I didn't know anything about the birth process. I didn't know. I didn't know anything about the policies and procedures that are commonly required in hospital settings, and I didn't know how to navigate those. I didn't know even what to look for in a care provider, which OB would be the best fit or who would be most supportive. So no, we really needed to take that birth class, and even in learning how to care for ourselves during our pregnancy, because your experience is different because you had a midwife each pregnancy, but when you see an OB in a hospital, even if you love them and they're supportive, they don't generally go over prenatal care with you other than take your prenatal vitamins. unless there's an issue, they're not going over, nutrition extensively with you. So the birth class even helped us with that. Like how can we care for ourselves and stack the cards in our favor? So if you will, to have a natural birth. Like, what do we need to do to reduce our risk for needing, an intervention or having a cesarean? So, no, I will always credit my childbirth educator, who's also our doula, for giving us the tools we needed for the birth we wanted.
Absolutely. So Tiera, let's wrap it up, and briefly, would you look this mom in the camera and share with the first time mom who maybe is on the fence, or maybe she's not a first time mom, but she's never taken a childbirth class. She's preparing for another birth, but she's on the fence if it's really worth it. Can you speak to her?
Girl, what do you have to lose? You have nothing to lose, only a ton to gain from taking a childbirth class. Sure, this is going to be time and money, but the investment is worth it. Being able to make a decision about things that may come up in pregnancy or in labor is going to give you the confidence you need as you enter into this new season. of parenthood. So please, even if you don't want to have a natural birth, please still take a childbirth class so that you can understand the process and what to expect. You don't want to be caught like a deer in the headlights when labor starts. So do it.
Right. Do you have any last remarks?
No, but thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the show. Tiera, how can they connect with you? Can you share your handles or your website, or how would you like for people to connect with you?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram, T's Birth Classes, at T's Birth Classes, TEES Birth Class, not classes, I'm sorry.
So tell them one more time, what's the handle?
Let me make sure. I'm pretty sure it's T's Birth Class. So TEES Birth. Oh, it is classes. I'm sorry. Birth Classes on Instagram. And on Facebook, it's Tiera Peters, Birth Bootcamp Instructor. Now, if you don't see, a ton of posts, know that I'm still there. You can still message me directly. I do check the page. It's just motherhood,
Right.
That mompreneur life.
Right. But book her. She is so knowledgeable. She loves it. And she would be a great addition to your birth team. Tiera, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, ladies, for tuning in. This is Sincerely Mama, and Fridays are so much better with you. We will see you next time. Sincerely Mama. Thank you so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, do me a favor and share it with another mama. Subscribe to this podcast and leave us a 5-star review. Also, connect with us on all social media platforms at Sincerely Mama Podcast. Remember, you're the best mama for your children. We'll see you next time. Sincerely Mama.